NASCAR Coast to Coast, presented by Hercules Tire.
60 minutes of octane-filled gear shifting, brake burning, fender smashing last lap passes for the win. Local, regional, and touring series interviews, news, and of course, opinion. Now, a couple of guys that think Speed Racer was a documentary. Kyle Rickey and Buddy Long.
There's another first-time winner in the NASCAR K&N Pro Series East. Myers gets his second win of the Southern Modified season, and we hear from one MRN anchorman, won a NASCAR Whelen All-American Series Modified event over the weekend as a car owner. Welcome to NASCAR Coast to Coast for Wednesday, April 19th, 2016. Kyle Rickey, Buddy Long with you. Rolling into the meat of the season here. It seems like all of, not all of them, but most of the NASCAR Whelen All-American Series short tracks are open. And what I love about this time of year, really for the first time, fanschoice.tv has got a bunch of these short tracks live every weekend. You can just sit and flip around and see what's going on at short tracks across the country.
Maybe what I do this weekend. I finally have a weekend off, so I think I may partake in some of that action this upcoming weekend.
6 tracks will be on NASCAR Fans
Good.
Choice, or 6 different events, including the NASCAR Whelen Euro Series season opener, Evergreen, Tucson, Berlin, Magic Valley, and Utica Rome can all be watched online live.
Pretty good variety.
Yeah.
Pretty good variety indeed.
Big weekend this past weekend, the NASCAR K&N Pro Series East. They were in action at Thunder Valley, Bristol Motor Speedway for their 4th event of the season already. And parity, we talk about it every week. It continues. We're not seeing one team or one driver break away like we have seen a couple of times in the past few years. Another first-time winner on Saturday night in Chad Fincham.
And I don't think you're going to see that one driver that's going to break away from this pack and put together a string of victories. I know it's early in the season, and it's not a surprise that Chad Fincham came away with a win. We talked about it with him last week here on the show. A very established team, very good ownership, good sponsorship, good drivers, everything in place. And he's got some notes, some very good notes to operate off of. And then when you looked at the entry list that we shared with him last week, there was a lot of drivers that may have notes but had never been there before, so his odds were just as good as anybody else's.
Took down the race win, led a bunch of laps with his Martin McClure Motorsports team, holding off Kyle Benjamin, last year's winner at the Bristol Motor Speedway, Kaz Gralla, Justin Haley, a former winner this season, Dylan Bassett rounded out the top 5, Colin Cabry, Grayson Raz, Eddie McDonald back on the tour at Bristol, finished in 8th, Todd Gilliland 9th, and Riley Herbst rounded out the top 10. I guess that was the other big story, is the Todd Gilliland Express derailed this past weekend.
Yeah, Chad Fincham was the driver that was in the spotlight. He was the one that stopped the record from being made by Todd Gilliland, and we knew this was going to be very difficult for Todd to do as he came to Bristol, one of the toughest tracks in America, and a very good mix of East and Western drivers, plus adding in Chad Fincham, another new team that was in there. That was going to be tough to do. Spencer Davis, while his teammate Kyle Benjamin did very well, had a 14th place finish, and that kind of shook the points up a little bit for the K&N Pro Series East.
A new championship leader, Kyle Benjamin, to the point by 3 over Justin Haley. Spencer Davis has since slid to 3rd, 9 points out of the lead. Tyler Dipple, former race winner this year, is 4th. Kaz Gralla rounds out the top 5. Still very tight toward the front, but so far I think the favorites, and I know it's still early, but Kyle Benjamin, Justin Haley, those two have been by far the most consistent in the first 4 races.
And now we get to see whether it's going to get shaken up a little bit more in
boy.
a couple of weeks when you head to your first road course at Virginia International Speedway or Raceway for the Biscuitville 150. And, of course, as we talked about with Justin Haley, I think a couple of weeks ago, that was a crazy race last year. I don't think there was a car in the field that didn't lead at least one lap or at least have the front of the field during a lap. It was crazy.
I mean, they get to the front of the field, and then they drive off the track the next corner. It's like, what are you doing? I mean, and it would happen 2-3 times a lap in the closing laps. There's a bunch of – we tried to get Kyle on the show this week, the new championship leader. He and it seems like half of the K&N field testing today at VIR to get ready for that race in a week and a half from now, race 5 of the season. So hopefully a little tamer, but I'm sure it'll be just as exciting.
Well, again, you have new drivers. You have some that were there last year, but you have a whole new crop of drivers that may have a little bit of road race experience, whether it be through karting, whether it be iRacing, which a lot of them rely on. But there are still going to be a lot of new faces that are going to hit that track for the very first time.
Busy show today with the NASCAR K&N Pro Series East drivers all testing. It allows us to, testing that VIR road course, allow us to talk to some other folks in the industry, including Burt Myers, for the second time this year, picked up another win on the NASCAR Whelen Southern Modified Tour.
And one of the guys that's probably wishing the tour would continue on, but this is where they have the big 2 and almost a half-month break all the way to July 1st before they get back to Caraway Speedway. But he's on a roll. I mean, this time last year, actually, I think all of last year he had 2 victories. This year he's already got 2 victories to his credit, taking the victory in the Dogwood 150 over the weekend at Caraway Speedway, and holds that point lead for 2.5 months before the tour reconvenes.
Held off his brother Jason Myers, Danny Bone, Andy Seiss, and George Brunhosel III, the top 5. Kyle Bonsignor 6, J.R. Bertuccio, Kyle Ebersol, Bobby Meismer, and Brian Doza rounded out the top 10 over the weekend at the Dogwood 150 in Asheboro, North Carolina. And they are back in action July 1st at Caraway Speedway. But the good news is Bowman Gray opens up here in just a week and a half with the annual running of the Hayes Jewelers 200. So I'm sure we'll see a lot of the Southern Modified folks at the stadium here in 10 days from now.
Yeah, absolutely. And now we switch gears back over to the Whelen Modified Tour, where after a very successful opener for the Icebreaker, you're looking at 34 pre-entries right now for the Stafford Spring Sizzler. And speaking of one of the Southern boys, George Brunholzl is one of those names that's going to be at Stafford this upcoming weekend.
I can't remember him running a northern race except for that deal at Thompson a couple of years ago. The Thompson Speedway Motorsports Park held like the north-south shootout type of an event. UNOH Showdown was what it was called. But it was a Southern points-paying event, so I don't know. It's been a while. It's something I forgot to look up. But 34 drivers will be on hand. George Brunhosel III, Walt Sutcliffe, a long-time late model and super late model driver up in the Northeast and at different tours around the South. He's going to compete. Ted Christopher back in the 00 this weekend for the first time, at least in the North.
Yeah, and fans will also have their first glimpse of Todd Zegedy. He'll be running for team owner Rob Fuller, which has done a very successful job with Ronnie Silk and Corey LaJoie doing some part-time efforts last year in the car, and that's where Todd's going to do some part-time racing this season.
And it's the best short-track car count we've had in a couple of years, except – let's see, I think the Icebreaker last year in 2015 had 34 cars, both New Hampshire races, which we expect to get big fields.
Right.
But outside of that, this large car count, just 33 at the Stafford Sizzler a year ago. So.
And Woody Pitcairn, the defending champ, he's going to be with a different team, and Kevin Stewart, so he's going to look see if he can defend that title and get that car up into victory lane. Timmy Solomito riding a great high. You got Ryan Priest, Doug Kobe's chomping at the bit. Much like Lee Pulliam, another one of our guests, you can only keep Kobe down but so long before you know he's going to rise to the top.
And, of course, Kobe, that's where he got his career started, at Stafford Motor Speedway back in the late 1990s. So he'll be one to watch. Burt Myers, however, will not be there. They get ready for Bowman Gray. He'll join us here in a little bit to discuss Caraway last weekend and everything coming up in the next couple of weeks at Bowman Gray Stadium. Lee Pulliam, as you mentioned, will join us on the show. A lot of short tracks opened up this weekend. Motor Mile had twin 75s, and he swept them both.
Yeah, we were waiting, and again, much like Doug Kobe, you knew there was only a matter of time before Lee Pulliam would find his car into victory lane. He had gotten off to a very rough start at the beginning of this year at different tracks, whether it be down at Myrtle Beach, whether it be at Caraway Speedway. We saw 12ths, we saw 15ths, we saw 17ths. We had Julia Landauer on the show a few weeks back, one of the drivers that ran underneath of Lee in the limited sportsman class at Motor Mile Speedway, and she even alluded to it, and she actually had the chance to tease him a little bit, but you knew sooner or later the former champion from last year was going to be back on top of the heap, and he is.
Like the Kobe, can only keep him down so long, and here he comes. He's also working with a new young lady driver from Canada since Julia's moved on to the West. Amber Balkin has come on board with Lee Pulliam Motorsports, and we'll talk to him about that in a little bit. And Jeff Striegle will join us here coming up in a little bit as well. Jeff is one of our anchormen on the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series here at the Motor Racing Network. He's also a short track team owner out of Berlin Raceway in Michigan, and races for a good cause and racing awareness every weekend. They went to victory lane this past week on opening night, so be good to catch up with Jeff and see what that racing awareness and what that team is all about.
Well, it's always fun to bring on a new track. You know, Jeff's going to be at Berlin Raceway. Obviously, the track that's closest to Berlin is Kalamazoo Speedway in Michigan, so we'll see whether a driver like Mike Bubba Brooks, who was the defending champion and did run at Berlin over the weekend, whether he will choose this to be his two tracks that will help him vault up higher in the Whelen All-American Series points like it did for Thomas Tillison Jr. a season ago in Oklahoma.
So a lot to talk about here over the next hour, and later in the show, really want to talk about the season opener at Dominion Raceway.
Well,
I
interesting
heard
night.
It was an interesting night, nevertheless. But when we come back, modified talk with Burt Myers, who won for the second time this season after the break.
NASCAR Coast to Coast will be right back on MRN.com.
The Toyota Racing Team wants to take a quick moment to congratulate Kyle Busch on his 2015 NASCAR Sprint Cup Series championship that he won in the Camry. Don't worry, this will be as fast as Kyle in his Camry. How fast is Kyle? So fast he's won a ton of races across all NASCAR series. Plus, he's won 133 of Toyota's 332 NASCAR victories. He's even won 38 NASCAR Camping World Truck Series races in the Tundra. And now here he is, wearing the 2015 NASCAR Sprint Cup Series championship crown. So yeah, Kyle is really fast. We're proud of him and all the folks at Joe Gibbs Racing, whose teamwork made this win possible. Keep those checkered flags waving and take another victory lap in your Camry, Kyle. Good luck to all our drivers in the 2016 season. Head over to ToyotaRacing.com to find more info about the Toyota Racing Team and Kyle's journey to victory. Better get there fast before Kyle wins another race. Let's go NASCAR. Toyota, let's go places. NASCAR is a registered trademark of the National Association for Stock Car Auto Racing, Inc.
If you haven't checked out MRN.com's exclusive online programming, you've missed a lot. MRN Motorsports Monday. Review and preview the NASCAR weekends. Winged Nation Talk, Winged Sprint Cars. The latest from the NHRA. On the straight line. Dirt, late model, modified, and big block modified talk. Slinging dirt. NASCAR Regional, Local, and International Series on NASCAR Coast to Coast. Exclusive original online motorsports talk on MRN.com.
This is NASCAR Wheeling Southern Modified driver Jason Myers, and you're listening to NASCAR Coast to Coast on MRN.com. Now back to Kyle and Buddy.
All right, thank you very much, Jason. Welcome back to NASCAR Coast to Coast, presented by Hercules Tire. Kyle Rickey and Buddy Long with you. Want to talk to, in fact, Jason's brother, Burt, joins us here on the guest
Is that
line.
how we're going to introduce him? Jason's brother, Burt.
Well, Jason brought us back
Okay.
from commercials, so it was only a natural segue. Right, Burt Myers?
If you say so.
Well, congratulations. Welcome back to the show. It's been a while, with, I believe, 3 weeks since we last talked to you here on NASCAR Coast to Coast. Picked up the big win at the Dogwood 150 this past Saturday night. How'd it go for you and your team? Obviously, pretty good night, and ending up in victory lane.
Yeah, it was a great night. It's always nice when Tim Southers gives me that call or text on Monday, because it means I'm going to be talking to you guys because I won the race. So, but I tell you what, to have a car that runs good at Caraway is a sight for sore eyes for us. The car was it's probably as good a car as I've ever had down there. We led early, we led late, and then I made a charge at the end. It was just a really, really good night for us.
What has been the biggest difference? I mean, you've always been right up there in the thick of the battle, but for the success that you've had so quickly this year, what's been the biggest difference from last year to this year, Burt?
Well, it got to where at the end of the year last year, a lot of times, you guys know, we race probably more than we should. And a lot of times we overextend ourselves financially, mentally. It just makes it tough. And at the end of the year last year, I think we just got so spread out that we kind of lost focus on what we needed to do, and probably not paying quite as much of attention to some of the details we should, because we were trying to prepare for that next week. Even though the NASCAR tour is off until July, Bowman Gray starts next weekend, and then we've got races scattered here and there. We've got 2 this weekend. So we have to be careful. And I think this winter I kind of sat down and I said, I need to reevaluate where I'm at here and do what I can do feasibly. And went through the car. I took it down to LFR, and they went through it, checked out, make sure nothing was bent or nothing out of whack. The students at the NASCAR Institute, along with Doug Wolf, freshened up my spec engine this winter. So it's just, you know how it is, guys. In racing, sometimes it just clicks, and right now she's clicking.
You touched on my next question. What does your schedule look like going forward? Buddy and I talked about the season opener just over a week from now at Bowman Gray, the Hayes Jewelers 200, to kick off their season. I know there are other tours and opportunities for you to race down here in the South now, more modified series than I think we've ever seen. What does 2016 look like for you?
Well, I can't. I've told everybody I can't go ahead and say right now I'm going to run every race I can. I'm going to run all of that schedule and all of that schedule and all of that schedule. That's just I can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
So far, we've run every race. Basically, I'm having to take it 1 week at a time. I can. It's never 100% in racing, but I can say pretty surely that we're going to run all of the NASCAR Well and Southern Modified Tour. More than likely, I'm going to run all of the Bowman Gray schedule. So far, let's say so far, there's only been one, but I'm planning on running the pass modified race at Ace this coming Friday night, and then the Smart Tour Sunday at Franklin County, which was formerly the Coma Tour. Basically, I have to take it 1 week at a time. So it makes it tough because, if I had because it's not just financially, it's physically, mentally, spiritually. You wear yourself down if you're not careful. And to try to compete for a championship in the NASCAR Well and Southern Modified Tour and compete against guys who are only running 11 races a year, I have to be careful and not to spread ourselves out too thin if I'm going to have a chance to win races and championships on that series at the end of the year. So I'm just going to take it 1 week at a time and kind of see what the future holds.
You're a veteran of this because, as we mentioned, just a couple of weeks away, we start off at Bowman Gray Stadium as far as weekly racing is concerned. You have a 9-point lead over George Brunholzer in the battle for the series championship. You've done this before so many years, but how tough or easy is it to, when you mentioned focus moments ago, put the tour in the drawer? I don't mean to try to wax poetic here a little bit, but you have to, in a way, for a couple of months and focus on something else and then pull it back out of the drawer and start in July. I mean, do you totally just kind of put it in the back of your mind, or is it still kind of out there a little bit, knowing that Caraway is coming, but it's still a couple of months down the road?
No, I don't even think about it. And even though it's a catch-22, because even though it is a little bit detrimental to us to run so often, we stay in the swing of things. I think there's a pass race at Caraway coming up before too long. So I don't know how the schedule is. We may be going back to Caraway for a pass race before the tour goes back. So it kind of keeps us in that rhythm and kind of keeps us going, where you take a guy that maybe only runs the Southern Modified or the NASCAR Tour, and he's not going to race any from now until July, where we're going to be in the swing of things and keep racing and keep going and keep doing our normal things. So there are some upsides to racing so often and staying in that clique. But, I really don't think about it. I've kind of had to program myself over the years to think about what's coming this weekend. I'll get through this weekend and go to next weekend. We'll get through that one and you go to the next one. So to put it in the drawer is I kind of do. I just say, okay, we got the NASCAR Tour this weekend. Okay, cool. And I know that kind of sounds silly, but that's kind of how I program myself because we do race so often.
Talking with Burt Myers, the big winner of the Dogwood 150 this past weekend at the Caraway Speedway. Second win of the season, current point leader in the NASCAR Wheel and Southern Modified Tour going into this long break. You held off your brother Jason on Saturday night for the win. Is it fun racing him for race victories, for championships, or is it more stressful racing when family is involved in that way?
Well, I don't know if do you guys play golf?
No.
I wish.
All right. Well, all right. There's a lot of people probably listening that play golf that have a sibling, okay?
Mm-hmm.
When me and Jason go play golf, I want to beat Jason so bad I can taste it, okay? In racing, it's kind of that same thing. But if I cannot win, if it's not in the cards for me to win, I want Jason to win. But when Jason wins, there's something about that little brotherly, competition there that drives me crazy. And he feels the same way, I'm sure. But like I said, if I can't win, I want Jason to win. But I want to win. So same thing with golf. When Jason beats me in golf, it drives me nuts. And there's other guys, other brothers and what have you, that whatever sport it may be, that, man, when your brother beats you, there's just something about it that's like, dadgummit, man, my brother just beat me. But on the flip side of that, if I can't win, I would rather Jason win than, somebody else. At least we're coming out of the same shop and we are brothers. And It can get hectic sometimes, but it is special. I think my mom made the comment on the Madhouse TV show that that racing is what's kept our family together, and that's why we are so close. And our goal is when we leave here is for the Myers cars to finish 1-2, and we were fortunate enough to do that this weekend, and hopefully can do it some more.
The thoughts of Jason's brother, Burt. We had to get that in one more time. Don't smack me on that, Burt, next time you see me. Hey, you know what? The mark of a good team is always not being totally satisfied with what you got. You guys are on top of the hill. You've done a very good job in the very first part of this season. If there's any one thing that stands out right now that you just feel like, we still need to do this and get this over the hump too, what is it that stands out in the first part of the season that you're not 100% totally satisfied with yet?
That's tough because you want to win them all, and race by race, you kind of when you don't win, I feel like that every race this year we've been right there and probably had the fastest car, if not one of the fastest cars, and in contention to win. So you kind of look at it per race and say, okay, well this race, this is what cost us to win tonight. We need to work on that. Then the next week is, well, that cost us. We need to work on that. Our pit strategy is probably one of the things that I feel like mentally we need to work on. But on the flip side of things, I don't know that it wasn't circumstance more than anything. There was a couple races where we made an adjustment. We came in and put our tire on, and the adjustment just wasn't the right adjustment. I don't know that had circumstances not been a little bit different, that adjustment been okay. So probably if I had to pinpoint one thing, if this was a 20 questions and I had to pinpoint one thing, I would say our pit strategy is something that I've been trying to work on. My daddy has always been, seems like has been the best at that. He can make that on-the-fly decision, and I kind of try to feed off of him and what he's doing, but a lot of times that's tough when you're racing against him because he owns Jason's car and I own mine, so that makes it a little bit touchy sometimes, but, because we're trying to beat each other at the same time. But if there's one thing, I'd say that the pit strategy, everything else, the guys I've got right now, the sponsors, my family, everything, like I said, guys, I've been blessed, and things are going really good right now.
Burt, we've seen a lot of familiar faces at the front of the field, both on the Southern Modified Tour, and I expect we'll see a lot of the same faces at the front at Bowman Gray when we get underway there in just over a week from now. I was wondering if there's any young drivers that have caught your attention over the last year or two that maybe aren't on our radar yet, and maybe that you've been able to watch develop or have even watched from a distance. Anybody stand out that may surprise us here in 2016, either on the tour or at Bowman Gray?
It's hard to say. I mean, right now you've got a group of guys that have kind of been running for a while, and at any given time you got 5 or 6 cars that are right there that can win on any given night. But it's hard to say. I don't mean this to sound ugly, but I don't really focus a lot on what other people are doing. Mm-hmm. And a lot of that comes from racing so often. I don't like to. Daddy's always taught us, and we kind of. To me, it's common sense. At the same time, if you worry about what you're doing and get your race car as fast as you can get it, then you don't worry about what everybody else is doing. And it was kind of cool because I got my pit crew guys. I got them some new T-shirts, and on the back it says "Always fast, never satisfied." And that first race of the year, I think that kind of got us just a little bit because the car was really good in practice, and I just kept trying to find that little bit more. I don't care what the stopwatch says. I don't care what the timesheet says. I know what I need to do to make my race car go fast. On the flip side of that, what the question that you asked is I don't really, there's a handful of guys that can win on any given night, and you just don't know. As far as Bowman Gray is concerned, you got new guys that pop up all the time. You'll have a guy that has a standout year. But answer your question, no, I haven't paid close enough attention. I apologize for that because I'm sure there'll be somebody pop up that I'll say, hey, I remember them asking me about that.
It's all about Burt. It's all about
yeah.
Burt. All right. Nah, just kidding.
Well, you know what? In my world, it has to be.
Yep.
I don't mean that to sound, I'm not being boastful, but I have to focus on what Burt's doing.
Mm-hmm.
If I focus on what Georgie's doing or Andy's doing or Tim Brown's doing or even Jason's doing, then I lose focus on what I need to be doing. So, in a joking way, it kind of is all about Burt in my world.
And there's nothing wrong
When it
with
comes
that.
to the race car, not at home.
Yep.
And let me get that straight.
Right,
not
right.
at home.
We got you. Burt, thanks for joining us again, as usual, and congratulations on the win at the Caraway Speedway. Best of luck to you at the Hayes Jewelers 200 in just over a week from now at Bowman Gray Stadium, and at all your other races this coming weekend. It sounds like it's going to be a busy couple of weeks for you.
Yep, it's getting started, guys.
Here we go.
Getting started. We're trying to get it done here. But listen, I want to take a chance to thank Speedway Auto Auction, Citrus Safe Cleaners, Remington Fit Control, Adams Towing, John's Cleanup Supply. Like I said, Doug and the students at the NASCAR Institute with the spec engines are doing a great job for us now. Family, friends. I mean, guys, I'm a 40-year-old. They called me a veteran the other day, and I was like, who? It just doesn't seem like it. But I'm a 40-year-old kid having the time of my life. God has blessed me, and man, I'm riding a train right now.
Man, it's a fast train at the front of the field.
Yeah.
Congratulations, and we'll talk to you soon, Burt.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Burt Myers joining us here on NASCAR Coast to Coast. Never short of words.
No, always a pleasure
Always
to
a
have
great
on,
interview.
and has gotten off to a tremendous start. And looking forward, I think next Saturday night I'm going to be sitting in the stands at Bowman Gray. I think I'm going to, for the second year in a row, have a chance to get out there and check out the action. If fans haven't, you and I both know we've been out there before. Last year, when I got there for the season opener, me and my nephew, I looked at the lines of people going in and saying, oh, gosh, this is going to take forever. And it was like 4 lines of people flowing in, and it took no time to get inside. And obviously, once you're inside, I mean, you just feel like you're in a park. It's just beautiful. Everything's neat, clean, pristine. The sponsorship, the billboards all over the place. The public address announcers, all they're doing is reading copy, PA copy about sponsorships and different businesses. I mean, they've done their homework. They've done a tremendous job. And then the fun of watching the cars finally come out on the racetrack. It's just an electric night. If you haven't been there, you got to get to Bowman Gray.
Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Check it out beginning a week from this coming Saturday night. When we come back, we're going to talk to a former NASCAR and Whelen All-American National Champion and a driver that finally got his first 2 wins this past weekend of the season. Lee Pulliam joins us after the break.
Coming back with more of NASCAR Coast to Coast, it's Kyle Rickey and Buddy Long right after this.
If you do-it-yourselfers are looking for the right tool for the job, stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts Power Torque Tools DIY Day Sale. You'll find a wide selection of Power Torque tools on sale now and guaranteed for life. Power Torque Tools DIY Day Sale going on now at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day. Limit supply. See store for details.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Where can you find MRN-affiliated radio stations? Go to stations on MRN.com to find your local station or stations that stream MRN's race broadcasts and programs. That's stations at MRN.com.
Stay up to date with the latest news from the NASCAR Garage weekdays on NASCAR Today, midday.
We can enhance the fans' experience, and I think that's what we really need to zero in on and provide.
Hear from the drivers and teams as they chase the 2016 championship trophy.
Change is good in our sport. It re-energizes people, makes everybody, step up to the plate, so to speak.
NASCAR Today, midday, weekdays on the Motor Racing Network, your source for NASCAR news.
MRN.com's Pod Tracks, a daily podcast that takes you in-depth into the world of NASCAR. Go beyond the headlines for the latest NASCAR stories. Pod Tracks, available in the Media Center at MRN.com or subscribe on iTunes or Stitcher.
This is NASCAR K&N Pro Series East driver Dominique Van Weringen, and you're listening to NASCAR Coast to Coast on MRN.com. Now back to Kyle and Buddy.
All right, thank you very much, Dominique. Welcome back to NASCAR Coast to Coast here on the Motor Racing Network. Kyle, Rickey, Buddy Long with you on this Wednesday afternoon. We touched on some track openers this past weekend. Dominion Raceway opened this past Saturday night. We had the track promoter on, Eddie Pardue, a couple of weeks ago. Rough night from what I understand as far as both on the racetrack and off the racetrack. A tough way to open up a brand new facility.
Yeah, I mean, and the good thing is they had a standing room only crowd. The restaurant's going to be opening up very soon. There's still a lot of growing pains that they have. There's some things obviously that they need to iron out, and sometimes it's almost nice if you wish you could have a soft opening for a racetrack, but it's kind of hard to do that. And the expectations obviously are so high for so many fans that lost the Old Dominion Speedway in Manassas, Virginia. They have been waiting in the Northern Virginia area for countless years. for this day to come. And unfortunately, some circumstances that, to a degree, were out of their control. Certain things happen, but you got to look on the positive side. I mean, I think 32 late model stocks were
over
there.
30 cars, yeah.
Very good-looking field of cars. A good collection of drivers that have come from the karting ranks. Veterans like Eddie Johnson were there, who's been around for many years. Veteran Mike Darn. I think as time goes on, they're going to get the bugs ironed out, and this is going to be a show place for years to come.
I mean, you touched on the cars, and I guess that was part of the issue earlier in the night is getting all the cars registered.
Mm-hmm.
I guess they weren't expecting 32 late models, and I don't know how many they had in the support classes, but that took some extra time and delayed the start of the show, just getting everybody in the pits, getting everybody registered. That's a good problem to have. If it doesn't take too much time, but I don't think it did. I guess the other big issue was the lights going out. I guess they're investigating as to why they went out, and there's some theories out there as to why the lights went out. But again, a problem that affected the running of the show while the cars were on the racetrack at speed. Thankfully, there were no incidents on the racetrack because of the lights. But again, just another issue on an already difficult night, I guess you could say.
Yeah, and I don't think that it comes to the point where people say, you know what, I've had it. This is terrible. I'm not coming back. I think people have wanted it for so long. If you've been around motorsports for many years, you realize a brand new facility, it's going to have issues. Sure. Things are going to happen. Some things you anticipate, some things you don't. And they had a little of both on each side. I think it was encouraging when Edwin was interviewed by a few people. So a lot of people that are very high up in the industry and people that have been around for many years said, hey, look, we see a lot of great things that is going to indicate you guys are going to be around for many years to come. So they're looking beyond the issues from opening night or the grand reopening night. And they know that once these bugs get ironed out, this is going to be a track in which they're going to have the last laugh on this deal. After some of the things that unfortunately happened to them, they are going to be laughing all the way to the bank. This is going to be a show place for many years to come.
Tyler Hughes ended up taking the win on the opening night in the late model division, so hopefully things are ironed out. They're back in action Saturday night, April 30th. Take this weekend, regroup, and they'll try it again. Other action this past weekend, South Boston Speedway, Bobby McCarty held off Danny Willis Jr. to win a 100-lap late model event. Joey Throckmorton picked up both of the twin limited sportsman feature events. South Boston off this weekend as well. They're back on April 30th.
Grandview Speedway got back into action. They were weathered out, one of the many tracks that were weathered out just a couple of weekends ago, so they had a $3,500 to win. 358 modified main event with Dwayne Howard scoring his first victory of the year over Mike Guler and Jeff Strunk. They will be back in action this upcoming Saturday. If you've never been there before and you get up in Pennsylvania for whatever reason, I know you don't get up into Pennsylvania much other than Pocono, and I don't know where Bechtelsville to Pocono is where they are. But if it was any indication of where we went and when we went years ago, they do a magnificent job. And when you look at track manicuring when it comes to a dirt track, you're one that wants to get out of a racetrack at a timely hour. You don't want to be there till 11, 11:30, sometimes even 10. I think after their practicing, after their heat races, and after every phase of their program, they brought the equipment out. Not that they had to, but to ensure just an absolutely perfect racetrack. And they did just a fantastic job. And I'm sure they're probably doing it again. And that's why you're looking at almost 30 358 mods that are jamming the pits. And the lower divisions are always packed at Grandview Speedway.
Absolutely. And that's a track on the bucket list. I want to get there and see a show. Utica Rome Speedway, they were in action opening night. Larry Wright and Matt Shepard split the twin modified features. Rocky Warner won the 602 Crate Sportsman main event. They're back in action Sunday on April 24th. There's a Sunday afternoon track, and again, a track that you can watch on fanschoice.tv. I'm not sure about every week, but opening night was on, and they're back on the schedule this week as well.
No, that's great. That's fantastic that people have the opportunity. I mean, it's all over the country, and if you're sitting in one spot, it's just great that you can sit there on a Saturday or a Sunday and just log on and watch some action. Limaland Motorsports Park in Ohio, that was another track that opened up, another dirt track on our NASCAR Whelen All-American Series schedule. Jared Horseman took the NRA Sprint feature. The K&N Filters Modifieds went to David Mielke over Tony Anderson and Randy Lines. They have the Spring Fling with Ken Schrader coming up this weekend on April the 22nd. They've always got a very interesting schedule there.
There's a lot of Spring Flings this week, or last week. It's every short track website you go to, it's the Spring Fling week.
Yeah.
Spring Fling 150. We mentioned the NASCAR K&N Pro Series, they were at the Bristol Motor Speedway this past Saturday night. They competed after the NASCAR Xfinity Series wrapped up their event, heat races and a main, which was odd, but I think it worked, at least for the shorter 200-lap Xfinity event. But the K&N cars ran. New winner in Chad Fincham. I was able to catch up with Chad just outside the media center in Victory Lane following the event on Saturday night. Let's talk to race winner Chad Fincham here at the Bristol Motor Speedway. First career win with one of the newest teams in the series. Bring us through your day. Congratulations. Got to be riding a high right now.
Well, you know, this team is really new to this series, and but the people working in it has had more experience than probably most of the people in the garage area, if not equal to. So just very blessed to be a part of it, and that they chose me to be their driver and represent them, and I hope that I do a good job of it. And today just went phenomenal. I couldn't ask for a better day. I mean, I'm ready for the next race now.
Talk about those late race restarts. Seemed like every restart we got closer to the end. Kyle got a little closer, a little better restart on the bottom. You've held your own on the top. You ever think he might get you?
Well, I think it was the restart right before the last one inside the last 10. He stayed right with me, and Spotter was on the radio with me, and he said clear by 3, and he never said anything else. So I was like, I'm not pulling him as much as I was, but you know, I did have that in the back of my mind, and I was prepared for it. I mean, racing is a give and take sport, and if he had, if his car was capable of winning it, you know, then it was his day. So I'm just thankful that we parked it in Victory Lane, and hopefully we can have many more with what's coming up on the schedule.
You came up in the media center, and you just mentioned it a moment ago, you're ready to get back at it. How hard is it going to be if you're not at the next event? Obviously, there's a lot that has to come together to get this team ready here in the next couple of weeks.
You know, I don't know. I know our next event is going to be in July, so yeah. So we've got some time. I mean, there's some stuff on the car. I think Chris Carrier's wanting to finesse a little bit before the next race, just, you know, doing this and that. So the next race on the schedule, I believe, is New Hampshire. So, you know, I've never been to that track, but I've heard that it's very similar to like a big Martinsville, and we've had some success at Martinsville in the past with the late models sitting on the pole there in 2013. So if we can back that same success up there, just like we did here today, would be phenomenal.
Well, congratulations on the win today, and we'll see you in a couple of months' time at the Magic Mile up in New England.
That's it. Thank you, guys.
And you wonder if it's going to be tough for Chad not to be on the racetrack when the series gets to VIR.
Oh, it would be for me.
In a couple of weeks. I mean, you're on this big high. You just led all of these laps at Bristol Motor Speedway on one of the series' bigger stages, and then you're not going to be at the next event.
Yeah, I mean, it's already been a great start to the season with a Whelen All-American Series victory at Kingsport, and how can you not be frustrated knowing that after the success you had at Bristol Motor Speedway in such a dominating fashion that, we're limited on our schedule this year.
Right.
We've got to, there's a set deal here. So, yeah, you got to wait. That's got to be tough.
I have a feeling we'll see him before New Hampshire.
Probably.
I have the schedule in front of me, and I don't know how many events there are between now and then, but I think we'll probably see him beforehand.
Yeah, very good driver, and it's always good to see drivers earn their dues. Again, he was high up in the Whelen All-American Series standings a couple of years ago. Think if he stuck with it between the Kingsport and Lonesome Pine deals, between he and Crest Van Dyke, they had a very good battle going. It's hard to beat a Lee Pulliam when he's racing everywhere, and you got to make sure those kart counts are high enough where you're getting the maximum points as well, but a very good driver, very deserving of what he's got right now.
I wonder if Lee's racing right now, actually, because he was supposed to call in at 12:30, and we haven't heard from him. So tough break. We were hoping to catch up with Lee Pulliam, the big winner at Motor Mile over the weekend, winning not one but two features. First wins of the year, but like you mentioned, car count may hurt him in there because there are only 12 late models.
Yeah, that was tough. I mean, South Boston Speedway is one of his best bets, and they had, I think, 21 cars over the weekend, which was one of their lower totals because they've been up in the high 20s, but still a very good total for late model stock racing. You mentioned Bobby McCarty scoring the victory there, but, that's going to be tough. Motor Mile, a very good facility. Again, I think another track for you and I that we both have on our bucket list that we'd like to go see. But it will be interesting, and we're not far away from the beginning of the Whelen All-American Series standings kicking into gear. So it will be fun to watch it week by week, another added element to the show as always.
Going to watch it shuffle around. Thomas Tillison picked up a win, another one of last year's contenders this past weekend at Salinas High Bank Speedway in Oklahoma. So he only has one track this year.
Yeah, he's going to need everything he can get, and I think the A-mods are pretty strong there this year,
are.
so he's going to need every bit as he can get.
So that'll be fun to watch as the Whelen All-American standings. Usually they start to release them once all the tracks fire up in mid-May. When we come back, we're going to talk to Jeff Striegle, who is at another one of NASCAR's newest sanctioned racetracks at Berlin Raceway this past weekend. He went to victory lane with his modified, and we'll talk to him about that after the break.
NASCAR Coast to Coast will be right back on MRN.com.
Whatever you drive, wherever you go, Hercules Tires will get you there, whether you're running on dirt or running a job. Our dependable, high-quality tires are the perfect fit for your needs. For unmatched value, selection, and warranty with industry-leading road hazard protection, there's only one choice: Hercules Tires. To learn more, visit HerculesTire.com or call 800-677-9535. Hercules Tires, right on our strength.
Ready to take the training wheels off your race scanner? Go to fanvision.com and upgrade your experience with FanVision. Not only will you be able to hear the race,
Dale Earnhardt Jr. gets a good run, drafting help from Kyle Busch and Kevin Harvick. Jr. again pulls up alongside for the race lead.
you'll see every moment through live video, instant replays, live stats, and more.
Hi, I'm Jamie McMurray, driver of the #1 Cessna Chevrolet, and I never go to the track without my FanVision. So go to fanvision.com to rent or buy yours today.
MRN On Demand. Listen or watch when you want and where you want. Find all of MRN's original programs in the Media Center at MRN.com, as well as YouTube, iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, and Race Day Nation on iHeartRadio. Find NASCAR Live, Motorsports Monday, Winged Nation, NASCAR Coast to Coast, Pod Tracks, Slingin' Dirt, The Inside Line, and The Straight Line. Motorsports programs when you want, where you want. MRN On Demand. This is NASCAR Coast to Coast on MRN.com. Here's Kyle and Buddy.
Welcome back, Kyle, Ricky, Buddy Long with you, joined by one of our cohorts each and every weekend on the Motor Racing Network. In fact, our anchor on the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series every week, Jeff Striegle. Jeff, welcome to NASCAR Coast to Coast.
Thank you, Kyle. Hello, buddy. Good to be with you guys.
Good to see you, Striegle.
Our anchor man, but more importantly for this show, a short track race team owner at Berlin Raceway, a guru, one of NASCAR's newest racetracks. Tell us about your race team, Jeff. First off, congratulations on the win this past week with Dave Lake behind the wheel. Racing awareness. I've done a lot of research here this week. A great race team racing for a great cause.
Well, thank you, Kyle. RacingAwareness.com is the name of our organization, and we've got 3 cars. And, you know, I want to start first with what you just kind of tipped off, and that is that we are now the Berlin Raceway, a NASCAR home track. It took a long time for a track that has been in operation in the Grand Rapids, Michigan area for now 66 years, and we are finally a NASCAR home track. Kevin was up there as the director of weekly operations for NASCAR, joined us this past Saturday. It was opening night at the Berlin Raceway, and yeah, we were able to get a win, and that's always good. You know, what makes, I think, our program unique, Kyle and Buddy, is the fact that we have 3 race cars, so we have a big race team, but we're really racing for more than just the checkered flag, and that is we also have a charity, RacingAwareness.com, that supports the Helen DeVos Children's Hospital of West Michigan. So we're racing hard on Saturday nights, and when we're not racing, we're trying to raise money to support sick and injured children really from around the world that come to West Michigan for care. Their specialty is childhood cancer research, and that's what we try to support.
Mentioning Kevin, that being Kevin Nevalanian from NASCAR, I think he's one of the most traveled gentlemen in the world of racing, because when I was in Dominion Raceway that day, there was Kevin. Of course, Jeff mentioned he was at Berlin Raceway. Jeff, you mentioned you've been around for 66 years, or the track has. You haven't. You're not 66 yet. You're close. Yet. You're close, but not 66 yet.
Exactly.
What was your thoughts, your reaction when you finally realized after all these years Berlin was going to become a member of the NASCAR Whelen All-American Series family?
Well, Buddy, I think the first thought was it's about time. I think anybody that has ever had the pleasure of watching or participating in racing at the Berlin Raceway realizes when you walk on the property that it's one of the premier short tracks in the country. And I think that, you know, when you look back at those that have raced there, and I'm talking about racing there, not just visited, but you go back to the ASA days, even USAC. Jeff Gordon ran a race there for USAC many years ago, but the likes of Mark Martin, Rusty Wallace, Johnny Benson, they've all been there. Matt Kenseth has been there. And, it's got such a long and storied legacy and history, and to partner now with NASCAR just seems to make sense. Would have been nice if it had happened years and years ago, but we embrace it now, and we look forward to the involvement and the notoriety, the publicity, and everything else that NASCAR is going to bring to the Berlin Raceway.
Talking about racingawareness.com, a big part of your team, and the biggest part of the team. How did this come to be for you?
Well, it really goes back to when the Gordon Food Service Company was partnered with Michigan International. And we were there, and quickly, and you guys both know this because you do it like we all do it weekly, you recognize very quickly how young kids can embrace motor racing.
Mm-hmm.
And we found that out there, and we were able to partner with the Helen DeVos Children's Hospital out of Grand Rapids, the Mott's Children's Hospital out of Detroit, and the Make-A-Wish Foundation, and we were hosting these kids at the racetrack for cup events. And when GFS decided that they did not, any longer want to be a part of that particular sport, we thought, man, we're making a difference here. How can we take what we've learned at Michigan International Speedway and bring it back to Grand Rapids and carry on what we started? So, that happened in 2007, 2008. And so we came back to Grand Rapids and put together a program. We started off with a modified car, and we put the name Helen DeVos Children's Hospital on the side of it. Started to invite families, patients, obviously, young kids, staff, anybody that wanted to be a part of what we were doing. We invited them out to the racetrack, and it quickly caught on. We have tremendous support that has allowed us to build our program to 2 super late models along with the modified. That was what won on Saturday night. And over the course of time, we've raised just shy of $300,000 for the hospital. And all totaled, we've had more than 3,000 kids, families, and staff members from the hospital out to the racetrack, hosting them and really introducing it to our sport.
And I was going to ask you, because obviously you're involved in the motorsports broadcasting aspect of being in racing, but what the allure was for you to transition into a team owner as well. And I think that kind of answered that. Does this go all the way back to the very beginning of when you were being a part of a short track team owner? I know you had some ties back with the Bowser family many years ago in the ARCA series, but was this one of the biggest allures? Was this part of what your thought process was all the way back then when you started these teams?
Well, buddy, it really goes back to, childhood. My dad and I spent Saturday nights at the Berlin Raceway. And I think like all of us that are either involved in the sport in one way or another, or as race fans today, we sit in the grandstands and we think, man, I want to be closer. How can I be behind the wheel? How can I be behind a microphone? Just get me involved. I want to be the flag man. And the short story is, in 1983, I started racing myself. As my family grew, so did the cost of auto racing, and I got out of it for a long time and got involved with the Motor Racing Network, now 20 years. And along that journey, it led us back to Michigan International Speedway. And that really kind of, involvement with Tony Stewart, and I really do call out Tony because there were some things that he did for us when we were sponsoring that race for a child that really was kind of the first little stepping stone that led us to where we are today. Just seeing how these kids interact, whether it be with Tony Stewart or whether it be, Kyle, like the name you dropped, Dave Lake, who drives our modified. Kids are fascinated with race cars. They're fascinated with the individuals who drive them. And, it just kind of has snowballed from there. Our team's as big as it's going to get, but our charity continues to grow every day.
You mentioned the modified in Victory Lane on Saturday night with Dave Lake behind the wheel. Were the super late models on the racetrack? And if not, when do we expect to see them out there when all 3 of your teams are competing?
The super lates will be on the racetrack for the first time this Saturday night. Of course, we all, you and Buddy and I and everybody else with the Motor Racing Network, will be at Richmond. So I will be following along on all the different apps and social media aspects in order to keep up with what's going on. That's probably the toughest thing, Kyle, is, we love the sport. We want to be everywhere. We can't. I've got 2 cars that will be racing for the first time, 2 brand new race cars, 2 brand new drivers behind the wheel. And unfortunately, I won't be able to be there to either celebrate the success that we may have or console them if it turns out to go a different direction. But Super Late's week number 2 at the Berlin Raceway coming up this weekend.
Live on fanschoice.tv.
There you go.
So
That's
you
good.
got live video up there with you. If you don't want to follow on the social medias. So
Well,
Jeff's going to be calling the Cup race.
Because that is something new. Sorry to interrupt you there, buddy.
No, that's okay. Go ahead.
That's something new, and I didn't look at it, obviously, this past weekend because I was there.
I saw you.
If you go to BerlinRaceway.com, they can link you to live timing and scoring or fanschoice.tv, which I will be tuned into. And the nice thing about it, we used to have to buy into a video stream, and that is now free coast to coast, and I'm going to be tuned in, that's for sure.
That's going to be fantastic. Not only are they on board for the very beginning of the season, they're on fanschoice.tv, so fans right off the bat can see the all-new Berlin Raceway as far as a member of the NASCAR Whelen All-American Series. Jeff, we've talked about the allure of many different racetracks that have tied themselves together, giving drivers an opportunity to go and run for the Whelen All-American Series Championship. Last year, we saw it with Thomas Tillotson Jr. running modifieds on the dirt tracks at Salina High Banks and also at Flint Creek Speedway in Oklahoma. Over the past years, Lonesome Pine and Kingsport in Virginia and Tennessee have done it. Greenville Pickens and Anderson Speedway in South Carolina, they've been able to do it, in which Anthony Anders eventually went on to a Whelen All-American Series title. Between Berlin and Kalamazoo Speedway, you're the expert in that particular part of the country as far as short track racing. Do you see a lot of crossover? Do you see this as the opportunity as far as the classes are concerned, the way they align each other, that you'll see drivers having that opportunity to run at both racetracks and possibly run for that Whelen All-American Series title?
That's a great question, buddy, and let me explain it this way. We run 6+ classes at the Berlin Raceway. One of them is super late models, template body cars. The other one is outlaw late models. And the outlaw late models have the opportunity to run for that championship that you just spoke about. Because Kalamazoo is now running, I think most of your fans will know this, but they're running on a Friday night now. And they do run the outlaw late models like we run at Berlin. So we have drivers, and I think this name will resonate with a lot of your listeners, and that's Seneca. And I'm talking about Terry Seneca, who is absolutely one of the best outlaw, and I'm talking pavement here, late model drivers I've ever seen. Runs his own Seneca Performance, builds his own cars, does a great job. Tom Thomas is another driver and a name that you will hear on this show that you guys will be talking about in the weeks to come. Those guys have plans to run Friday night at Kalamazoo along with some other ones, possibly the Bozels, some of the top late model drivers out of the West Michigan side, if you will. They've got that opportunity now, buddy, to run on Friday night at Kalamazoo, Saturday night at Berlin, and they will certainly be chasing the championship.
Mike Bubba Brooks, another driver that was at Berlin this past week that we've talked about a lot from the Kalamazoo Speedway. All right, you have recently dove in to the social media world, Jeff. Where can people find you? You're on Twitter, and I saw for the first time the other night on Periscope. I never thought I'd see the day.
Yeah, I know. And I'll be honest with you, Kyle. I'm still learning.
As are we all. It changes every day.
Well, I think you got back to me and you said, Jeff, hey, that's not how you tweet. That's not how you recognize a track or an individual. So I believe on Twitter it's simply at Jeff Striegle. Yes, I tried doing a little periscoping. I don't have any idea what's coming out the other side. I wanted to periscope from Victory Lane the other day, but my hands were shaking and we were celebrating and we were getting, drenched with Mountain Dew, and I didn't want that on the phone. So, it'd be fun to have people follow. I have no idea what I'm going to do, when I'm going to do it, or what's going to come out after I've actually done it. So I'm looking to both of you who are experts at social media to guide me along the way.
Yeah, we will. Yeah, I think this is so cool, Striegy, because for so many years, every time we hooked up at an MRN event, I always said, how your drivers doing? because Berlin, was not in the mainstream of NASCAR. Now that we're covering a short track show for the last 2 or 3 years and Berlin comes on board, it kind of bridges the gap. Now we can follow what your favorite drivers, what your drivers are doing. I think this is fantastic.
Well, and I appreciate that, buddy. And I'm going to just throw out one last quick plug to the newest NASCAR home track, the Berlin Raceway, and I'm going to sum it up this way. I mentioned we have a number of classes that run out there, and I don't know of a racetrack in this country that can put 26, and I'm talking high-quality, outlaw late models on the track on a Saturday night, turn right around the following Saturday night and do the same exact thing with super late models. And you can go to racingawareness.com, or you can follow us on Facebook, search racingawareness.com, supporting Helen DeVos Children's Hospital, and you can see an example of our pavement modified and our pavement super lates. And I think that you'll see that the type of racing that we do at Berlin as is good or better than any place in the country. Yep, I'm biased, and I get that, guys, but we put a lot of race cars on the track, and we're proud of it, and it'd be fun to see people tune in this weekend to see how the race unfolds. I know I will be.
And, oh, by the way, in front of a packed grandstand last week, and it wasn't even completely dark yet when the final checkered flag flew. They were doing fireworks, so you get out of there at a reasonable hour as well. Jeff, thanks for joining us. Time is short, and, again, best of luck to you at the racetrack this weekend. I know you'll be watching from Richmond, and look forward to seeing you soon.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. Thank you for having me on, and I'll see you both in Richmond. Have a great day.
Look forward to it. Jeff Striegle, MRN anchorman and team owner at Berlin Raceway. We're back to wrap things up in a minute.
Coming back with more of NASCAR Coast to Coast, it's Kyle Rickey and Buddy Long right after this.
Does your heart race for great taste? For a limited time, get 20% off Creekstone Farms premium St. Louis style all natural Duroc pork ribs. Choose between 4 or 8 fall off the bone rack of ribs and get up to $30 in savings. Just place your order at creekstonefarms.com before April 30th using the promo code MRN20RIBS. That's MRN20RIBS. Enjoy the juiciest premium quality beef and pork products. Visit creekstonefarms.com today.
O'Reilly.
If you do-it-yourselfers are looking for the right tool for the job, stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts Power Torque Tools DIY Day Sale. You'll find a wide selection of Power Torque tools on sale now and guaranteed for life. Power Torque Tools DIY Day Sale going on now at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day. Limit supply. See store for details.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Join the Motor Racing Network every Tuesday evening for NASCAR Live. Eli Gold, along with the cast of MRN personalities, will take you into the sport of NASCAR like you've never heard before.
And the intent was right there. There wasn't no, oh, oops, I bumped into him. This was, look out, here I come.
And what would NASCAR be without the fans?
As a fan, it was like, whoa.
It's NASCAR Live every Tuesday evening at 7 p.m. Eastern on the Motor Racing Network.
Hey, this is NASCAR Canadian Tire Series driver LP Dumoulin, and you're listening to NASCAR Coast to Coast on MRN.com. Now back to Kyle and Buddy.
And the NASCAR Pinty Series inching ever so closer to the start of their season. About a month away. Kyle, Rickey, Buddy Long, wrapping things up for another week. Want to give some results from this past weekend. Rockford Speedway, they ran the 39th Annual Spring Classic. Michael Bilderback, last year's champ, back in victory lane, picking up right where he left off.
Buddy Shepard taking the late model opener for the cars at Kern County Raceway Park of a race in Vernon.
Jake Kaiser, or Jace Kaiser, won in the late models at the Adams County Speedway in Corning, Iowa on their opening night this past weekend in the modifieds.
Cedar Lake Speedway found Jesse Glenn's taking the late model win in the 59th season opener for that Midwest racetrack.
Jake Griffin won the late model feature event at Lebanon I-44 Speedway in Missouri.
All-American Speedway season opener, Jason Romero takes late models. Mark Gardner, the street stock winner.
We mentioned Matt Craig earlier, super late model feature winner at the Caraway Speedway this past weekend, while A.J. Sanders won it in the mini stocks.
Myrtle Beach Speedway, twin late model action again. Matt Cox and Lucas Williams take the twin races, and they are hoping to get back in action 2 more weeks from now.
And mentioned earlier, Thomas Tillison picking up the Salinas High Banked race win this past weekend, his first win of the season. Opening nights this week include Orange Show, Stafford, State Line, I-80 Speedway, Lonesome Pine, and La Crosse in Wisconsin. Another quick hour, buddy.
We're getting there. There are a few more tracks left to go, but looking forward to another good weekend.
Want to thank everybody that was a part of the show, including Burt Myers and Jeff Striegle. For Daryl Smith, Robbie Mays Jr., Buddy Long, I'm Kyle Rickey. We'll see you back here next week on NASCAR Coast to Coast.
This has been NASCAR Coast to Coast with MRN short track experts Kyle Rickey and Buddy Long. Tune in next Wednesday at noon at MRN.com for more talk from NASCAR home tracks and touring series. NASCAR Coast to Coast is also available on demand in the MRN.com Media Center or download from iTunes or Stitcher. NASCAR Coast to Coast is a production of the Motor Racing Network. All rights reserved.